Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Future Show for Grassroot Chats. Once again, another show without Mike in the building. Hopefully, he's all good. He's all nice and well. I think the man is just very busy. But with me, I still have Big Steve repping the Arsenal jersey, looking all good. As I said, have a wonderful couple of weeks. He's happy. And of course, we have a top geyser who looks like somebody from, I don't know, one of Guy Ritchie's movies, Neil Hinder in the building. Once again, if you like what you hear, what you see, people, please press that button notification. The Future Show gives you all the wonderful trending topics and those topics that me and the lads like to debate on. And this week, we're simply talking about age. Why is age a number in football? It's that simple. Why are the old guys kicked out simply because they're old and not based on ability? James Milner, 800 Premier League games, still playing really wonderfully well in Liverpool, very fit, but there's still people that call in for his head. Oh, he's too old, he should go. Should age matter? Shouldn't these athletes be able to play as long as they can, especially if they are still contributing an impact in the game? So we should start with that question and see how far that takes us. And I'll start with the youngest guy in the group, Big Steve.
Yeah, don't let the greys through you, the silver. I think once the player themselves identifies that their role switches, and then there'll be less game time, and then they can give value off the pitch or bring youngsters on, and they'll play in spurts. They won't be playing every game. I think it's a win-win for the clubs, and it's something that you'd like to see more of. To be honest, especially at bigger clubs where they hold on to experienced players, because it doesn't matter how much money you got, you can't buy experience. You can't place that.
I'm not even talking about just experience. It's a case of there's this misconception that people believe that, okay, because it's an older guy in the team, he's probably taking the spot of a younger guy. And isn't it the case of you give the spot to who's good enough or who would actually make an impact? Or is it just a case of, oh, you're a particular age now, you should go? Neil?
First of all, I have got absolutely no idea what you were on about for the introduction. I don't think I've ever been referred to as anyone from a Guy Ritchie film. I don't know whether that was... Anyway, took me by surprise. The train of thought is completely gone. Yeah. So, age. There's two things. I'm from the years of 30 and above. Was you were shot, you were put out in a field, if you were lucky, and then you were playing lower league football. That was literally what happened. 30 was the cutoff, and everybody moved on. I think that was pretty much all of the 90s and all of the noughties, right? Before that, players were playing until they were 50 and smoking and drinking as much as they wanted in between. So there was this fallacy, I think, of probably maintaining the fitness levels and of where they got to. They wanted people that were fit, and usually younger people, no one's as fit as they were when they were 18, 19 and 20, right? You were definitely in a better condition as you were when you're older. However, as time has gone on, it's down to the player and individuals of how well they keep themselves, I think, and how well they've looked after themselves on and off the pitch. Gareth Barry was a prime example of somebody that looked after himself. Ryan Giggs, I think he was probably one of the biggest examples, because if you look at players like Rooney, he played at 15, right? And I think by the time at 33, he was a little bit slow, quite off the pace of how he was. But Giggs was very good all the way through his years. He didn't have the pace, but he was still playing in pretty much the same position, but tailoring his football. Again, like Ronaldo, tailoring his football slightly to a slightly different position, but still there. And they have played since they were young. People, I suppose like Milner wasn't really cutting it on the scene at teenage years. So maybe that's an advantage that he's got. Some people have peaked a little bit later in their careers and haven't played 150 games by the time they're 21. I mean, I think Saka's played 83 games already for Arsenal, and he's only, 19? So the chances are by the time he's 21, he's already played 150 games, which is a hell of a lot of Premier League games to be playing anyway. So by the time he's 30, you don't want to say that he's past it, but he's got a lot of experience if he's maintained it. So that's, to me, like, there's two. There's people that have looked after themselves properly and like really like thoroughbreds. And I say Giggs and Ronaldo are probably the two biggest examples who have done that in Gareth Barry. And Milner, I think, didn't really come into his own until he was a little bit later, maybe in his mid to late 20s.
So, in terms of people that started since they were 15, 14, have been playing, I mean, Michael Owen is probably one of those. He started really early and burnout, injuries, and all that came into play. However, in terms of the responsibility of these players to look after themselves is number one is on you. Ryan Giggs started doing yoga and doing a whole lot of other things just to make sure, I can keep this going. And as you said, yes, he lost the pace. If you compare Ryan Giggs when he was 17 to when he was 39 or 37, two different players, but still fit, could still play, was willing to put in the discipline because the older you get. And he was still he had loads of impact on the Man United team at that time. So why would people be calling for him to retire? If you look at Terry Sheringham, who played till he was 40 for an outfield players, yes, I know goalkeepers stay longer, and goalkeepers could probably play till they're 50 if they wanted to. I know everybody starts saying, the reflexes are going, which I don't believe because I think people are just looking for an excuse once a mistake or something happens. And then Wayne Rooney's younger than Cristiano Ronaldo. So that just tells you he didn't take care of himself as much as Ronaldo is. Cavani, look at Cavani, the way he plays, the running non-stop. These guys are taking care of themselves. Suarez, all these old boys are getting older. But they still, as you can see in the modern game, they're still. But then people here, the same thing with contracts. A footballer turns 32, you want to give him a contract. People start saying, "Oh yeah, he's in his last dying ages," blah blah blah. But some of these guys are still playing wonderful football. David Silva. So where does this thing start from? Why is it the case of, oh yeah, he's old now. Once they turn 30, 31, if they can still play, why don't you just play on?
Because it's to me, people jump on the bandwagon, isn't it? It's down to the individual. If the individual takes care of themselves, as you've given examples, people turn to different forms of training to enhance their body and make it last longer. And they realize that they can't live the lifestyle that they used to do when they were younger. Can't go out drinking, all that kind of stuff, give up alcohol. Some of them turn vegan, yoga. But you do whatever you need to do to make yourself last longer. And I just think that the general perception is that, you reach a certain age and you can't perform anymore. You perform in a different way. I say the only one one position you can't do that with is being a goalkeeper. Yeah, when it starts to go, you can't change your game to play a different way. Then you'd have to just say, yeah, I'm leaving. Whereas if you're an outfield player, you can say, all right, I'm playing more with my head. I'm not going to run around like a mad person. I'm not going to dive in on a tackle. I'm going to stay on my feet more. I'm going to pass it, give it 1-2s. I'm not going to dribble as much. So it's just all a nonsense, to be honest. It's down to the individual. If they look after themselves and they're offering some value to the team, yes, it might not be for 38 games in the season. It may be for 10, but they give a lot of it. They give a lot of value to other players around the club. So yeah,
it's also down to the manager as well, right? And he has to manage that player. And I mean, I've seen you've brought this up, JJ, because you're getting a little bit older and you're worried whether we're looking to replace you for a much better looking younger host, right? There can't be any other reason, can there, Steve? He's trying to, he's trying to keep it. Yeah. So to me, it's down to the manager as well. So he's got to tell that player that, look, you're not going to last 50 games a season, right? Because if you're 8 games in the Prem plus FA Cup, League Cup, Champions League, so there's up to maybe 50 odd games, and he's got to manage that player to say, look, you're not going to play all of them. You're going to play as and when we need you, and we do need you, but you're not going to be in every game. Maybe you'll play in the big games, or you'll play in certain games where we play a different style. But do they take a place off a youngster? I think it was your initial one. Potentially, yes. So how does the youngster ever break into the team when you've got dependable Eddie? No, I would disagree before you tell me if you're good enough.
Yeah, but it is if you're good enough.
But look at ESR at Arsenal, right? He gets left out of the team because he's young.
No,
the older players. Lacazette's keeping him out of the team because Lacazette was playing on the left when Aubameyang was still there. I'm
confused here. So you think Lacazette was keeping ESR out of the team? First of all, Lacazette is only 32.
Yeah, but this is the age, right? This is what we're saying. But we're talking of younger and older players.
But then, if the older player, once again, it's the same thing. So if you have two players in their 20s and one is really good and the other one is not as good as the other guy, he will be benched, right? but then age doesn't come into it. All you say is ability. So if
No,
the
because
older
that's
guy,
not the case, is it?
no,
So
but it is.
no.
It is.
You've gone way
You-
past the psychological
No,
logicalness of football. If you've got a player in a team and he's only 18 or 17, you play him,
Yeah.
and suddenly you don't play him again because he's not as good as the other guy. He is going to have no confidence. He needs to be nurtured into that team, as well as the
Players-
older guy needs to be nurtured out of the team.
Players only break into teams because of how good they are. It has nothing to do with your age. So when you look at Saka, ESR, Tierney, this is just me calling Arsenal boys. I mean, look at Marcus Rashford. Look at, well, I don't know if I can even call his name anymore. Greenwood.
Yeah,
and all
but if
these
you
other
look
guys.
so look at Rashford, he's no longer starting. Yeah,
Yeah, but that's
Saka
form.
played
That
because,
has-
and he didn't
that's
have a
form.
position. Yeah, exactly.
That
But
has
Saka
nothing
didn't
to
have
do
a
with
position,
ability
right?
to break into the first team.
Saka was playing fullback.
So for me, right? So for me, football, right? The only time where age should come into it is when you're negotiating a contract, because it's whether you've got a sell-on value, you're just going to do a rolling contract year on year, and as the player gets older. But who gets in that 11 is who's performing for me as part of the team. It doesn't matter if it's age or not. It's just who plays who's on form, who's playing well.
Okay, I'll give you a typical example. So the two top strikers for Man United now have a combined age of over 70. Once people hear that, yeah, all they think about is, oh yeah, I mean, Ronaldo used to be really good. Cavani is still really good. Ronaldo's still good. Oh yeah, but they're too old. We should start looking to change them. Now, the first thing they think about is age. They're not even thinking about ability. It's just age, 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 age. They should go. And going back to the situation in Neil is, you brought up when Rooney broke into a team when he was 16. And he broke into that team because he was the best player around. It had nothing to do with the fact that somebody else was too old and then he had to come and replace him. When you look at Steven Gerrard, all these guys that came into teams when they were really young, it's simply because they were good. It had nothing to do with, oh yeah, there's some older guy blocking their passage. You have to be good to break the team. Now that's the truth about it.
No, you've got to be lucky to break into that team. Any of those big teams, or anyone in the Premier League, right? If you're a youth candidate and you're trying to get a game, you don't get a game because you've been performing well in the youth team. You've got to earn your stripes. The only way you're going to get a game is if someone gets injured or someone, gets sent off and they need to change the tactic and you're in there. They're not suddenly going to play the under-21 guy that's banging in 50 goals and suddenly drop Ronaldo. Because that doesn't work like that. You've got to be lucky. And then to manage that new player coming in, you don't just keep them in because you've got the guy that's got the experience that could play there. So the youngsters have to be nurtured in, because if they come out, that's a whole confidence thing to be lost, right? Of going, actually, you're not good enough to play at the moment. We're going to take you back out.
But I think the point you're trying to make is very different, because yes, them being nurtured in and taking their time, I agree with that. That's the whole psychological part. But the only reason they are even going to waste any time nurturing anybody is because they're good. It has nothing to do with, because
Nketiah gets game time at Arsenal, right?
That has nothing to do with nurturing.
But
that has nothing to do with nurturing.
He is getting nurtured, right?
That's the only just something that's wrong with Arteta somewhere. It has nothing to do with nurturing.
But you look at the players that coming in. Even who's the youngster for United? Bala, what's his name? Belanga, right? Seems a good player, and then he's come on and he's doing business when he's coming on, right? And I would say he's warranting a starting position, but they're not going to suddenly put him in the starting lineup.
But he has started a couple of games.
But they're not going to start him week in and week out over Pogba, are they? Pogba hasn't played well for United since he signed.
God, here we go. First of all, that I don't understand that statement. Second of all,
Steve agrees.
They play two different positions. They play different positions. Okay. When you look at AC Milan a couple of years ago, not a couple, many years ago, Rui Costa was the main man in the middle. Kaká came in. Kaká was way better than Rui Costa. Rui Costa gets benched, he's gone. It's simply because of ability. Ronaldinho, when you look at all these kind of guys, even James Milner that we're talking about, when he broke into the Leeds team at 17, he was good. It has nothing to do with, oh yeah, you know what, you're doing bits here, you're doing bits there. Yeah, then just come in because we want to nurture you. Nope, you have to be good. Yeah, Sarah, that you've mentioned, was way past the level at the youth team. So next team, first team. I mean, there are guys that have come in and have tried to be as nurtured or wonderful. Where are they now? Simply because Federico Makeda, wonderful game, came in, scored against Villa. couldn't keep up the consistency. You're dropped. It has nothing to do with
Yeah,
luck
but what
or
happened
anything.
to him?
He started smoking and drinking and decided to go back to Italy.
Yeah, exactly, because he wasn't nurtured properly in the process of going through. But what I'm trying, the point is, if you've got an older player, he has got to be phased out in a nice way, right? And he has got to understand, and he has to have the mentality of, right.
But phasing out shouldn't be based on the fact that he's old. It should be based on
Yes,
the
it's
fact
going to
that
be fact on anyone's old, because that's why you're
no,
getting phased out.
It should be based on the fact that you no longer can contribute to the team.
Okay, so Pogba hasn't contributed all season, but they're still playing him.
He has
when he's fit.
He has 7 assists. That's a contribution,
Yeah,
and
but
he played well today. So don't.
who
And he has been
wouldn't, right?
injured. Let's not just start with that one. Leave Pogba
but
alone.
I think with any player, right? If he doesn't fit, then you phase them out, and the period you phase them out, it's either going to be short or long. If you've got a player, an aging player, and he's in your squad or he's in your team, and you have a conversation with him, and he's planning to retire, you'll have one approach. If he's planning to play on year after year, then you'll manage that a different way, providing he's continuing to give value. But as soon as he turns around and says he's retiring, then yeah, you put a plan in place, and it's the same for any player. Any player that you're going to phase out, you're going to have a replacement. That replacement is, at some clubs it will be from the youth team. At another club, it will be we'll buy them in and stuff like that. So
let me ask you this, Steve. Mm-hmm. So when it comes to age being a factor, there are certain things I understand. So if you look at ladies and gentlemen, sorry to keep bringing up Man United as an example. Can only talk about teams that you know. But if you look at the Man United midfield, you have Matic, you have Mata.
Mm-hmm.
It is obvious that the running around that the league requires and the movement, they can't do it week in, week out. They probably can't even do it for a lot of games.
Mm-hmm.
So they keep playing McTominay, Fred, younger, more, enthusiastic. But then when you look at the striking abilities, when you have Cavani, Ronaldo, Martial is supposed to be younger and sharper. He couldn't get in the team with above Cavani simply because he was not good enough.
Yeah, not good enough. So
why would you want to phase? Why would you want to phase out Cavani? Why?
No, you wouldn't.
Because he's old.
No, you wouldn't really want to phase him out if he's happy to accept that he's not going to play a lot of games in this current scenario. Then you can keep him. But if
if he can do? What if he can play all those games?
If he can.
Yeah, because Ryan Giggs would have comfortably played another 2 or 3 seasons before he retired.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they never had anyone. Okay, let's talk sensibly about a player. Silva and Foden, right? Silva and Foden. Foden is a top quality, top draw player, right? And he's taken Silva, who was definitely world class, right? No doubt about it. Silva could still do it in the Premier League, at not the same level as he was competing at the top end, right? He could probably work for at least the bottom teams. He's going to carry on playing football. But Foden is an amazing player that walks into most Premier League teams. Foden didn't just suddenly go, oh, I'm taking Silva's place every week. Because A, that doesn't do any Foden's progress any good. It doesn't do Silva's confidence any good, and he's still offering. And Silva was still offering bits to Man City. It wasn't like he wasn't doing anything and he's terrible. But it was a fact of one player in and one player out. It was the perfect transition of a player knowing that he was no longer at the desired level that he wanted to be at. And you've got this absolutely amazing, outstanding talent coming in to replace him. But Foden didn't just take his place every week. There was actual conversations with Foden, Silva, and Pep of how do we do this? What is the best scenario of going through and going out? You're talking of Man United. We haven't got a youth player at Man United that's looking to get through to that team. You're going taking off Cavani for who? There isn't anyone else in the United team that's going to come in through the ranks.
Once again, Neil, I think you're misunderstanding my point.
No, I'm not, because you were talking about old players and when are they good enough to retire?
It's very simple. The question I'm asking you is very simple. So this is the thing here, and of course, Big Steve, help me out here because I kind of think you understand me, but you're trying to stay out of this fight. So David Silva Foden that you used, Pep Guardiola made a comment and said the boy's really good, but unfortunately, there's David Silva in the team. David Silva chose to retire, chose to leave Man City. Now, if he did not choose to retire and he was still playing as good as he played, yes, Foden wouldn't have played as much now, but you wouldn't have missed Foden because David Silva was still doing the key thing I'm talking about here is impact. Mm-hmm. So in terms of how they nurtured Foden, blah blah, you're right. It was a case of I speak to this guy, this is who you're going to replace. Once this guy leaves, this position is yours, blah blah blah. I get that, you're right. confidence. But in terms of impact, ability, if David Silva chose not to leave Man City, it wouldn't have bothered you as a City fan because he was still playing that position wonderfully. So there's no way.
No, he was still on a decline for him. He was up here, but he was never going to play at that level for another season. And he knew that. Cantona retired at 30 because he knew his body. Company retired at a really good age as well. So Terry did. We're talking of top quality players,
Company, right? Terry, these are players that injury, they knew that their body couldn't hack it. The question here is simple. If these guys are still going strong, taking care of themselves, they're not getting injured, and they still have impact on the team, and they're playing week in, week out, why do you need to phase them out? Simply
you don't need to phase them out.
No one's saying that you need to phase them out.
No, you don't.
That's what Neil is saying, though.
No, you
but
don't.
No, I'm saying you have to phase anyone out, regardless, because they're going to get to a point of retiring. Man United don't have the foresight at the moment to phase out Cavani and Ronaldo. But that's simple as it is. Who do you have in to replace them? So Man United are an entity, they always have been. They had Van Persie in his last years. They had Sheringham in his last years.
But that brings the point of the same thing I was asking you, or the same thing I was saying to you, is a lot of people get phased out because there's a younger player. Martial was in the team before he went on loan. He couldn't phase those guys out.
Yeah, but Man United's approach is different, especially with Ronaldo and Cavani. It's what I said earlier. They're phasing that solution is going to be just buy someone in to replace them straight away. It's going to be over. It's going to be over a short period of time.
Let it be clear that for some reason these boys are using Man United as an example.
No. Or we can even use your example of when you said Matic and
still Man United. Still Man United.
All right.
You pick one.
You look at Burnley. Wood, right? Okay. Sold him to Newcastle. He's in his 30s. Replaced him with a younger model, right? Vegas ready to.
How old
regardless.
How old is Wood?
Wood's 30, I believe.
There's not many.
Vegas is 29. So what are you talking about?
Model. There's not many in the Premiership in the league like in a Milner situation. It's like right now, a very senior player.
I mean, there was Bruno for Brighton that retired 2 years ago. He retired at 38. He's now part of the Brighton staff. Mm-hmm. So he was 38. He chose to retire. Mm-hmm. He chose not to sign a new contract. And he was playing right back, which is a very demanding role. Mm-hmm. But he chose to. He was like, you know what? Let me just let it go. But he was playing week in, week out. Nobody was. Lamptey couldn't even get into the team. That's how good Bruno was.
Yeah, but do you think if they had a player to replace him that was good enough, they would have done it?
They had Lamptey. Lamptey was at the club at the time.
Yeah, but he wasn't good enough to replace him. This is the point. If you look at the United team, there isn't anyone good enough to replace them. If you look at like Messi, you even get it to PSG, right? Messi's still getting games and he's well old.
Yeah, but that's exactly my point. Talent, impact, he still has it.
Yeah, but these are the creme de la creme players, right?
Don't replace him because you think you have to. Replace him because you think, you know what? I don't think you're doing it anymore.
Okay. Here's a good example. A very good example. Ibrahimovic, AC Milan. He's still impacting, so they're not looking to replace him. It's when he's not offering value. People may use the age as an excuse, but at the end of the day, it's about whether they're impacting. Bottom line is, I don't think anyone cares how old people are. It's about whether they're impacting or not. If you've got a 70-year-old person on the pitch and they're banging in 30 goals a season, they'll play. It's only when it goes bad, then people start digging up all the things that, he can't use his left foot. He's old. He can't run. He can't hold the ball up or whatever. People come up with all excuses when things are not going bad. When things are going fine, people don't see anything. And that's the same with age. If Milner was playing in a side, if Milner was at Arsenal, right, and they were inconsistent and they wasn't playing well, they'll be saying to him, he should retire. Why is he playing? But he's in a successful Liverpool side, part of that. So everyone will say, continue going.
And he's happy to come in and help out, right? He's not a talisman in there. He's not the one that's relied upon a week. He is relied upon because of who he is and how he carries himself. But he's not going to be the starter there. And he knows he's not the starter there. He takes a place if anyone gets injured or comes on, almost like Oxlade-Chamberlain there, right? He doesn't start games, but he's part of the squad. And that's the difference between having a player and him knowing his role in the team and having somebody that comes through. They don't have a replacement for him. And that's all it comes down to, because there's no way that if any of these clubs didn't have replacements on a 5-year contract at a younger age, they'd be having them. Why not? Why would you not want a player that's going to stick around for 5 years? If you've got an old player and they are older, even if they take care of themselves, if they get a heavy injury, the chances are that they'll end up retiring because it's going to be harder to get back in the team, right? Yeah, if. But we only look at ifs and buts in football. And
No,
it's the
don't.
foresight of replacement. No, we don't. We look at ifs and buts. You're like, right, who do we buy if this happens? What do we play if this happens? You're telling Bielsa doesn't change his tactics, but he's looking at if Man United score. He's not worried about that. He's worried about his team scoring. Everybody is looking for their own best interests. Right?
First of all,
I had to get Bielsa again. Is he too old to manage?
Oh, dear.
You see, you tell
I
me.
know. I'm happy with it.
He's still younger than Roy Hodgson and stuff. So
everybody's younger than Roy Hodgson.
He's still younger than Roy Hodgson, so it's understandable. I mean, I don't understand how other sports. Well, football is what impact sport or what's called contact sport. Sorry, so it's understandable you can throw in ifs, buts if somebody breaks their leg, blah blah blah. But your point about young people, older guys holding younger guys, nah, nobody's holding you if you're good enough. Nobody's stopping you from joining the team. And then in terms of phasing out players, as you guys have said, everybody gets phased out, right? That's fine. But if you have Zlatan is a very good example. Zlatan could possibly play for most Premier League teams now, today, but nobody will sign a 40-year-old because he's 40 years old.
Zlatan retired and came back. Let's not forget that. Zlatan went to America, thought he didn't have it anymore. Yes, it is. Everyone knows America's retirement.
That's not
he didn't
retirement.
go to America to go, I haven't conquered this league, right? But he did. He went there and then came back and then went, you know what? I feel that I've probably got it still in me. And then he got that chance at United because they only signed, 35 plus strikers. And he fitted in with the ilk there. And he did all right there. And now he's flourishing again, going, I'm 40 years old and I'm still doing it. But my game has changed. But he's clever enough to change his game, right? And the managers are clever enough when they speak to him, or when he tells the manager what he's going to do. Because Zlatan tells you what he's doing, right?
Exactly. I'm Zlatan.
Exactly. And I'm going to play like this. And he got in the team when he was really young, right? And he went through the ranks at... was it Ajax? I think he worked his way through, right? And he did his hard graft, and now he's playing for the biggest clubs, and he's played for the biggest clubs in the world, right? But he's fallen out with quite a lot of managers because he is Zlatan. But we're talking of very, very specific world-class players that are still carrying on.
It is only specific because of the way it is carried. Look at Thiago Silva. If Lampard didn't sign him, he'd probably be back in Brazil. Probably have retired by now. But playing at his age in Chelsea, playing really well, arguably the best defender in the league at this point at that time, particular point. So once again, it's because of the stigma that surrounds the age thing. Why would you sign this? Or because he's old? Or why would you do this because he's this?
Because he's not an asset at 37. Okay, so all these clubs are businesses apart from about 3. They're all floated, right? So you're buying a 37-year-old and you go to the stock exchange, I've just bought a 37-year-old defender, or I've bought a 21-year-old defender who's on 150 grand a week. One of them puts share prices up, the other one doesn't. We're in business of football, right? So that's why the 21-year-old comes and looks like a more appealing, because he's an asset.
The 37-year-old Thiago won you the Champions League. Surely your stock will go back up.
No,
and even what do you mean? No,
you can take that. You can take that chance, but again, it depends on the player. It's how they value themselves in terms of what are they coming in and going to do. And then the manager has to understand that as well. Lampard took a chance that a lot of managers won't. And I think it's like, because he's at the club he's at, yeah, he can do that. But I just don't think that other managers will be willing to take the risk. Some of it is because a more experienced player than them, who's won everything, they don't want that kind of seniority around the club. So it can be intimidating. So that's part of it as well. You know what I mean? But if the player can play, you can sign him. But as Neil says, a lot of these clubs are a business, so they have to sign someone with a view to that they can sell them on if they need to.
Well, you and I'm not quite sure about Big Steve, but Neil is just an ageist. And he's in pain because he was phased out when he was 30 or something.
I'm not an ageist, man.
I'm not even 30 yet.
I'm still a goalkeeper. So I'm one of the old ones, yeah? But I have to understand my role and I have to teach the younger ones. So I can't show up every week because then I don't let the younger one play. So I got to show up every so often, yeah?
Oh, boy.
It's about integration, right? And it's about having a forward plan for the club as well. The club would be naive to only ever think that these players are going to be the ones that they can use for 50 games in a season. Like we're talking of Silva that won't play all the season. Ronaldo will want to play every game and probably will end up playing more games than he should. And Zlatan will play whatever he wants to play, but again, he should be managed in accordance with, look, you're 40, and there's, regardless of what we say, the science will back up that a 20-year-old's body is still going to be better than a 40-year-old's body for that many games. Look at tennis players, right?
Doesn't mean the impact will be the same.
It doesn't matter, but it's the wear and tear. It's the whole game. He's got 90 minutes, man. It's a long time to be at that top quality.
Make no mistake. In terms of aging players, there are not as many with different clubs. So I'm not saying you should have a team full of 60-year-olds. I'm not saying that. And of course, when it comes to football injuries and all these things that happen, some people can't even play past 35. But all I'm saying is the aging players that still have an impact on the team, if they continue to go strong, which they're never more than 2 or 3 players in the team, sometimes just one, let them play on. Don't phase them out or say because they are old that, and a 20-year-old's body will be better. I mean, I saw your body at 20, Neil. My God.
It was only like last week, so. I don't think anyone's saying that they should be phased out if they're good enough. No, I'm saying that there should always be a plan. There's always got to be a plan for whoever you come in. And for the clubs not to have plans, it's very, very naive. To think Ronaldo is even going to stick around at that level for another 5 seasons would be naive, right?
No, you got to understand, he's used to them not having a plan. He's a Man United fan. Yeah?
Who can we buy tomorrow to win us something,
he's
right?
He's a Man United fan.
It's harsh, right? There needs to be a level of understanding of the players should have the responsibility to know that they need to change their game to accommodate for their age and wear and tear on their legs. The fact that when you get older, everything hurts is Ledley King was almost crippled at like 27, right? And obviously Ronaldo's 37 and still in way better condition. But Ledley King was treated differently by the club because they needed him to play, right? So he didn't have to train, etc. That's the kind of things that have to happen with them. But it's the players then, what else do they offer? What does that then player offer?
I mean, to go back to Steve saying Man United doesn't have a plan, it just occurred to me that when you think of all the... no, I'm not upset. It just occurs to me that every single player we signed in the so-called old age, possibly apart from now, all won something. So if you look at Teddy Sheringham, Henrik Larsson, Zlatan, Van Persie, Van Persie was only 29. They all came in. They all came in and won something. So what's this story about we not having a plan?
No. I'm not talking about before. I'm talking about now.
You can't live in the past. We're still following the same plan from Fergie.
We have a plan. We have a plan now.
You buy ready-made. That's your thing.
We have a plan now. It just hasn't worked yet. Yet is the key word.
Maybe there's not enough old players there.
I don't think they can get any more. Matic, Mata, Ronaldo, Cavani, combined age of about 200. It's already. Combined age of 150. How old's Varane?
They're 29.
He's only 27, isn't he? Yeah,
28.
Yeah, he's just been around forever. That's why he's so tired already, because he's been around.
Exactly. Playing centre back, playing defensive Ramos, who's never around.
Playing with Maguire's aged him 15 years.
Oh dear!
I mean, just in case people are confused, this was why older players phased out, but these boys have turned it to attack Man United for some reason.
No, we're not attacking Man United. We're just saying that your philosophy is that you buy people in. So it's not even a case of...
We also have the best youth plan, so I don't understand.
Yeah, you've got a great youth plan. It's perfect.
do.
They're all breaking in.
Mention how many. Tell me which team has released more youth players than Man United in the last 10 years. Tell me.
Southampton.
Release them
No,
from the club.
Yeah.
Not released.
Wild.
Sorry, release them into the first team. I mean,
I
Tell
probably
me.
would end up going with someone like Southampton. Hands
Nope.
down.
Please, let's go. Can you please mention these
He's
players?
looked this up. That's why.
He hasn't.
please-
He
can
hasn't.
you-
He's
Can
so
you-
confident. He's looked it up.
Can you please mention these players, please?
Oh,
Since
you want
you're
the
so
players
sure.
mentioned?
Yeah. I mean, since you're so sure that they've broken into.
I mean,
Apart
I don't
from-
think United have had a decent team breaking in since the class of
No,
92.
really.
Was it? When they had, obviously had the Nevilles, Scholes, Becker, they played for like 20 years together. And then after that, you've had, I don't know who you've had a breakthrough. Rashford?
Rashford.
And what's happened to him? He can't get a game?
Rashford, Jesse Lingard, Greenwood,
Yeah, but
West
look how
Brom,
well you're treating them.
Elanga.
How well's Lingard been treated?
No, that's
First
not,
start
that's,
in 2 years. Rashford can't get a game.
That's not the point. The point is how many. First of all, I don't even.
PK, Pogba, you had to buy back.
Can you mention your? Can you mention your 11 in Sheffield Wednesday right now?
Yeah, of course I can. We
No,
won
you
3-1 on
can't.
the weekend.
Who did you win?
We beat Doncaster.
Wow, what a great football game that is!
I tell you, talking about this age thing, that there's one person that you could have thrown into the mix is Ben Foster at Watford.
Yeah, it was goalkeeper.
Yeah, what he's
Yeah.
39.
Yeah, I mean, what's his name? Van der Sar played till he was 40. Schwarzer played till he was.
Well, actually,
He was like
Buffon's still going at 44.
Yeah, there you go, Lehman. I mean, with goalkeepers,
But see, this is the thing we're talking about the play, yeah. Because look at Buffon; he's actually gone to Serie B.
he's in Parma.
Yeah,
Yeah, he
Yeah,
dropped
he
out.
went back to. That's where he. But Juve still offered him a 1-year contract.
I know.
Yeah, but that wasn't starting.
Yeah, but at least impact, as you guys mentioned, as long as you know the guy can, make some sort of impact to the team, and still he's happy to come on and play. Why not?
As I said, I'm a living example. So
Yeah.
Surviving example, maybe, Steve. Living pushing it a little bit.
Anyways, people, let us know what you think. Drop your comments below or send Neil a wonderful hate mail and just let him know that he's an ageist. Should aging players be given more chances? Should it stop being a stigma and everybody just thinking once you get past that age that you're done? Let us know what you think. In the meantime, please watch, subscribe, follow us, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and all that wonderful good things. Well, old men, I'm sure you guys have better things to do for the rest of the night. Neil, go make a tea or something.
I'm bringing the youth up to take my place.
All right.
I've got a plan.
that is wonderful. Let's see how the plan works out. Till then, ladies and gentlemen, it's goodbye from Big Steve.
see you later, people.
And of course, goodbye from Mr. Hinder.